Okay, so this is for the MCE groups, cultural diversity seminars, collaboration discussion, and we're going to be talking about like the different facets of identity and also the effects of the video and just a few other interesting things that we thought and picked out that applied in the classroom. Yeah.
I thought the most interesting thing was the movie that we watched. It kind of like put everything into perspective and that we don't always see the lives of the students beyond the classroom. And so it's important to like get to know each and every one of our students and actually understand where they come from.
I would say a big thing that stuck out to me was definitely the facets of identity activity that we did. Definitely, it was hard for me at least to try to limit myself down to what was most important out of that, especially because mine was being parental status, which was mine because it's like when it comes down to it, it's how your parents raise you in a sense. So a lot of that home life and stuff that's tied in is mixed in with that as well.
Yeah, I definitely didn't think of it like that. I thought of it more as like who I was as an individual. So I ended up actually just doing the religious community and spiritual beliefs because like I always kind of put that as my basis. Even though like my parents did raise me, like I feel like God has taken me further than like they could have ever. Not that they're not amazing, but you know, so that's cool.
Yeah, going back to Cody's point, one thing that I thought was interesting was the way that she talked about how even though their home life, like maybe like their culture, it's still important to recognize their culture, but in addition to that, make sure that they know our culture enough to be successful in the world, in like our American world.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of interesting and different.
Yeah.
Going with the video, I never really thought about a student not even speaking English. I went to a predominantly white high school, no poverty, and all that stuff. So
That's really interesting. I had like the complete opposite high school like education. Like I went to a school that was predominantly African American and Hispanic, and most students came from Mexico, and they didn't know English. Like we had a lot of translators in our school, and we were below the poverty line, and so we had almost everyone was on a free and reduced lunch. So that's really interesting how like that, because like I always forget like that people are on the complete other end of the spectrum like than I am, just because I don't know, my family really like put us in like the middle of public school and made sure that we had like that education of that everyone's different and that's okay and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely agree with that because I was more from Tyler's end of the white high school, but we weren't necessarily struggling, but it definitely wasn't easy either. So.
It's interesting to think about because my high school was, I went to a private Christian high school, like it's not cheap, and so nobody was necessarily like below the poverty line, but at the same time we weren't rich either. Like nobody there was I guess there's this like stigma that comes with it, and so people assume that they're all the same people if they're like in a private Christian school and whatnot, but they still come from different backgrounds even though they kind of are sorted into a group, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and I think like going back to like Kevin's point with like trying to find that healthy balance of like student culture and classroom culture and making sure that you're not stripping the students of like their culture. That was like a really strong point in our school, is like making sure that you didn't have to completely conform, you know, even though we did have like campus wear, which is kind of like uniforms, like you didn't have to conform mentally and spiritually and like culturally to the classroom norm, that you can still bring your culture in, and that's what makes a cool classroom culture, is having the equal balance. So yeah, so that's really cool.
Thanks for joining us. Bye!